Welcome to this Rochester Sentinel webcast. Today our guest is U.S. Congressional candidate Jackie Walorski, a Republican who is opposing incumbent Joe Donnelly. I understand you have an announcement to make regarding an endorsement.
We do, and I brought with me today Sue Swayze from Indiana Right to Life. The National Right to Life sent an endorsement out just within the last couple of days, and I think it's significant, the endorsement for National Right to Life. And the reason, I don't run around doing press conferences on every endorsement, but I think the reason the National Right to Life endorsement is key for this race is because they're keying in on the issue of the health care bill, which I've been keying in on since we started talking about this health care issue in the country, and that Donnelly proposed and kind of presented himself as a blue dog that was pro-life, and he also said when he voted for that bill that he wouldn't vote for anything that would endanger the unborn in this country, and that the executive order would take care of it. And I've been out there talking about the fact that the executive order was basically the piece of paper it was written on, that's about what it was worth. But secondly, that until we defund Planned Parenthood, which that did not have in that bill.
I'm sorry, defund
Planned Parenthood, that our taxpayer money is supporting, your federal money is supporting abortion. So I consider it an important announcement because it basically kind of transcends my opinion. This is not rhetoric. This is not Jackie's opinion. It's not the Republican Party's opinion. It's an opinion from the leading organization that fights for life in this country, saying that Joe Donnelly put this movement behind 20 years by allowing that bill to pass. And I just think it's significant because in the 2nd District, the issue of life is a huge issue. It's been an issue for me as a House of Representative member as well. But it transcends politics. It's not a Republican-Democratic issue. It's the issue that is very, very personal and close to people. And so I appreciate the endorsement, and I also I accept their endorsement, and I've told them as well that I will definitely file the bill in January to defund this health care bill and derail it.
Clarify or maybe to elaborate a little bit on your abortion position. Do you see any room for any abortion at any time?
Life of the mother. Life
of the mother, nothing else?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Let's move on then. How much money do you expect this campaign to cost?
Probably between $1 and $1.2 million.
It's a staggering amount of money. How
That's
much do you have in your pocket so far?
Actually, you know what? We're over $400,000 now. So, we're holding our own. And I'm not naive enough to believe that we'll be able to raise as much money as an incumbent congressman that's funded by MoveOn.org, that's funded by the DCCC, and 80% of Joe's funding comes from, out-of-state labor PACs. 97% of our money is coming from inside the 2nd District. We have over 2,000 donors. I think something like 2,200 donors. We have probably more donors than anybody running for Congress in the state of Indiana, because when I said that we were going to build a grassroots campaign, I meant it. And we do, and we have. And the reason we're holding our own is because I'm not a silver spoon kid. I'm not a white-collar Republican. I'm as blue-collar as they come. I'm married to a public school teacher. And so when people look at our campaign finance reports and they'll say, oh, well, you don't have, you have less maxed out donors than anybody in the state. Maybe so, but we have more donors than anybody in the state. And when it comes right down to it, and you need boots on the ground, the investment of people's time, energy, and finances, we've got it.
Where would northern Indiana's recreational vehicle industry be without the federal bailout?
There really was no federal bailout for the RV industry. I've represented the RV industry at the state level for 6 years, so I've been in that industry and been involved in representing the industry before the meltdown, during the meltdown, and now watching them come out with light at the end of the tunnel after the meltdown. And I would propose to you that the reason the RV industry is coming down, and I've said this to MSNBC, I've said this to a lot of the national media that's come in and talked about the industry, I've said it to Barack Obama's people when they came in and tried to prop up the stimulus package as being the savior of the RV industry. And I would tell you this, I honestly believe that what is leading to the recovery of the RV industry and all the subsidiary companies that feed into that is because Indiana has created a safe financial investment climate for people to invest and reinvest in this state. And we've done it by going from deficits to surpluses in this state without raising taxes, keeping the tax base the same, allowing private money to come in, a AAA bond rating, keeping corporate taxes low, keeping utility rates low. All the things that the Barack Obama administration stands for are the things the state of Indiana hasn't done. We haven't raised utility costs, don't buy into cap and trade. We haven't raised deficit spending in the state, don't buy into deficit spending. We've created a climate of investment that they've been able to come out in large part on their own. And I think that's the key. And I would take anybody to task on the fact that this industry did not recover because of stimulus money. This industry was not bailed out. It came about for 2 reasons. The hard work and common sense and entrepreneurs that live there, that in some cases within a week, were already reinventing themselves. And in some cases with green technology. And in some cases just downsizing to towables. downsizing the things that people would buy. And I was at the 100th anniversary celebration of the RV industry a couple of weeks ago, and it was just very interesting to see the CEOs and the employers that were there, and to hear the stories of what they've done to come out. And I haven't heard anybody say to me, well, thank God for Barack Obama because he saved this industry.
You don't agree then that saving the banking industry or
No.
injecting money into the banking industry
No.
made a difference in Indiana's economy?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you know what? If we're not going to allow companies to fail in this country, then we're not going to be the capitalist. We're not going to be the leader of the free world. We're not going to be the leader of capitalism. We're not going to be the leader of this idea of America. And you know what would have happened at the banking industry and the financial industry bailout level if some of those like AIG were allowed to fail? What would have happened is the same thing that happened in every other system, in every other profession in this country. If AIG would have been allowed to fail, all that would have happened would have been the competitors around the area would have picked up the bits and pieces of that company and picked up the bits and pieces of that economy and gone on, probably gotten larger, and life would have gone on. But when you take and when you leverage public money, which is tax money, of which there's no return, we will never recoup that money that they put into those bailouts. And now the debt is at $14 trillion.
You've advocated starting over on health care. Could that really happen? Is that
Has to happen. I don't think there's a choice. And I think if we defund the appropriation, we take the life out from the octopus that has tentacles all over the American way of life right now. I think we defund it, we stall it. And I think it allows then for a Congress to go into the concept of repealing it. What I'm hearing from the people in D.C. is a repeal could take it up to a decade, if not longer. But defunding it, like we do sometimes in the state of Indiana, pull the plug on it, will allow time to actually dismantle this thing. And there's things that we could do, and there's things that were on the table until these guys took a hard left turn into, building an infrastructure of a healthcare reform that brought the entire nation into something that 75% of them wanted nothing to do with. And I would propose this: two things. One would be in the state of Indiana, again, we have a model that works. Governor Bowen, 2-3 decades ago, created a program called the Catastrophic Healthcare Plan for the state of Indiana. With that catastrophic healthcare net, which was made from the bottom up for the people who could not get insured, who were uninsured, or who needed access to health care. It created an asset protection program, and it was for catastrophic coverage. And the general budget of the state of Indiana paid in, so as taxpayers, we paid in a small sliver of amount of money. The insurance companies paid in, and then the consumer paid in with a high deductible. But it was catastrophic health care. And with that came tort reform in the state of Indiana, medical malpractice caps. So as a legislator, as I'm out and about and around the country, I hear from legislators all over the country. The state of Indiana is the envy of most places in most states because we have medical malpractice caps. We couldn't even have the conversation at the federal level. We talked about healthcare reform, about a bottom-up approach. They immediately went to a top-down approach. And they immediately were going to do that by increased taxes, fees, and surcharges. So back in August of last year, the Indiana Fiscal Policy Institute produced a white paper for legislators that just gave us an idea of what this would cost Hoosier taxpayers. That white paper and this concept is what flipped me over the line to run for this seat. Because when I looked at that white paper, that was data-driven economic information, emotion out of it, personalities out of it, politics out of it, just data-driven information that I needed to see as a legislator to know how to think about the budget in this state. When I saw what the IU and Purdue economists came up with on that white paper said that this healthcare concept would cost every working Hoosier $4,400 per year in the increase of taxes, fees, and surcharges are going to be built into this plan. In addition to that,
$4,400 more
per person. Taxes, fees, surcharges, all coming out of a taxpayer's pocket. One form of revenue generating this monster behemoth is coming out of taxpayers' pockets. And it also said, because of that, and because of the fact that most Hoosiers are double income, $8,800, $10,000 a year, disposable income going rather, it'll shrink our economy by 4.5%. Well, that says bankruptcy in Indiana.